I was just saying hello and I was asking you a question. I said, you know what? Pause. Let's do this on air. So, Dae, you work at Los Angeles World Airport. And I was like, hey, is your day chill? Do you have chill days?
Well, no, we are the department of the city of Los Angeles that operates the two busy airports in LA. We're LAX and Van Nuys Airport. And LAX is the busiest origin and destination airport in the world. So, no, there are no chill days, but this is so far just a kind of medium on the thermometer.
I was about to say, where in the spectrum is it? Do you have special strategies for where you find your zen? Is there a breathing exercise? Is there a trick?
Well, I go hiking every morning. It's one of the reasons why I love living in Los Angeles.
Every morning?
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you leave the phone? No, you don't leave the phone behind.
Oh, no, I don't leave the phone. I'm permanently attached to my phone.
You're like, Adam, there's no way.
No,
Well,
multiple phones.
so for the audience tuning in, we're in season 4. We're connecting employees to organizations as our main theme. In fact, to be just a little more specific, we're talking about how to adapt marketing to connect employees to organizations. And I know I lose some of you when I say marketing to employees. You're like, Adam, did you mean customers? Nope. No. I meant employees. And today we're doing something a little different. They and I connected, I think about 3 weeks ago, and we had a brief conversation. I said, stop. I want to discover the rest with my audience. So I don't know a ton. What I do know is we're going to talk about how world's top airport connected with employees. I want to talk about your background, and I'm going to say this question very specifically. So, previous position you held was Chief Communication Officer at the City of Los Angeles. Then you started as a Director of Marketing, and now Managing Director of Marketing and Communications. In your role, what audience are you responsible for communicating with?
Well, in my current role, I'm responsible for communicating with a variety of audiences. We have uh, millions of guests that pass through our airport every week, and we are responsible, of course, for communicating with them. We're also, as a department of the city of Los Angeles, responsible for our service to Angelinos. And within that, there are, of course, key stakeholders, the board, within our executive team, of course, from the CEO to the CEO. So it's a variety of different ways of gauging our communications. And we're really lucky in that being in such a wonderful metropolis of Los Angeles, we have a variety of tools at our disposal to be able to communicate with our various audiences, including a really robust media that we work with on trying to make sure that everybody is up to date on all of the news and information that they need to make their travel experience as smooth as possible at LAX.
Is there an audience you're not responsible or involved in communicating to?
No, my role also oversees our internal communications and our executive communications. So when our executives go to conferences, making sure that they have the support they need, and making sure that our uh, internal communications are happening as well. I'm not personally the only, of course, I'm not the only person. I have a team. I have a really capable and wonderful team that works alongside me. And I have wonderful executives to whom I report to support us as well.
I think in the pursuit of one brand or a unified brand, the only way to accomplish it is to unify communications across all audiences. And I think it was Bill from Blue Origins that first brought up this idea on the podcast. It has come up a few times, but I'm going to ask, I'm not going to go too deep into it. How did that happen? Because that is not the norm. In organizations, there's external, internal. They have a particular relationship, sometimes good, sometimes not great. How did it happen here? Are you the first one to unify the communication across audiences?
No, and so I think that in part it's because it's the way that a lot of governments work, and so we, as a city department, that's how we are executing on our communications agenda to make sure that we're unified. But I also have to really hats off to the people who were predecessors to me in the role. who set the stage and set the standard for how it is that we coordinate across different departments or different divisions within our department and also across the city as a whole as well. We have a leader of that city, and that leader is the mayor. You pointed out that I used to be chief communications officer for our previous mayor, and now I'm really lucky to be working in one of our departments. So with our mayor as our guide, setting the agenda for the city, we get to support that agenda.
Awesome. And I have so many questions. I'm trying to stick true to a core story arc because I want to get to the employee campaigns. Before we do, if we could maybe illustrate for the audience, what are some of the challenges or some of the goals and objectives that you're pursuing as we start to think about why you rolled out this employee campaign? What are you taking on that are your priorities as an organization?
So, as I mentioned, we're a city department, and within that city department, we have about 3,000 employees working at LAX. We also have a significant number of employees working at Van Nuys and at our airfield holdings in Palmdale, but I'm talking specifically today about LAX. So we as a city department have about 3,000, but there are about 40,000 people who work at LAX. And that's because we are the operators of the airport, but we're not flying the planes, we're not TSA, we're not the baggage handlers. We have so many airline and airport partners that work alongside us that have their own employees. And so we have this community, this pretty much like a big city operating on any given day. And we all have different ways of communicating with those employees, and we all live in essentially the same city, the same village. So what we wanted to do was to create a way to unify communications to that audience while not cutting off any communications that they get directly from their particular companies that they work for, of course, but just creating an opportunity for us to have that conversation across some key elements that would make everybody's workday easier. So we wanted to support the employees, not just of Los Angeles World Airports and specifically LAX employees of LAWA, but also across all of our airline partners. We saw a real need for this across a few areas, including the commutes and making the commutes easier. And I'll get into that more as the questions develop. Discounts, because people eating at the airport, well, I don't know if you've flown recently, but you probably have realized that prices in airports can be kind of high. People are willing to pay that when they're traveling, but it's harder to do on a day-to-day basis if you're working at the airport. So we wanted to provide discounts. And we also wanted to give a really easy way for everybody to be able to report problems that they see in the airports that they could be acted upon quickly. Those are just a few of the areas that we cover with the employee communication tool, but they were some of the key reasons why we initiated it.
And for the audience, you can see why I jumped on the opportunity to talk about connecting to employees. And in the title, I didn't say connecting to their employees because there's so many layers of employees that are involved here. It actually boggles my mind to think about, from the employees to the security to governments involved, so much complexity. But I will stay true to my theme and talk about adapting marketing. So when I said those words to you and you looked at the podcast, you were like, you weren't surprised, because I get some people surprised. Some, of course, don't agree. And others I would put in the category of violent agreement, which I think you are. But there had to be an aha moment. What was the aha moment when you said, you know what, marketing, let's leverage those techniques and strategies and what we know about marketing instead of internally?
Well, I was originally hired at LAWA as the director of airport marketing. And so that's the hat that I had on when I joined the project team to deliver this employee communication tool. And so I looked at it completely as a marketing. Now I have broader responsibilities across all marketing and communications. So my remit has expanded, but originally it was all about the marketing that I could support with the branding elements, with the language elements, and with the unification of communications. So we at the beginning we were not thinking how to get them to use the app. We were thinking, what are the things that people will use? Why would people want to use this tool. And I sometimes refer to it as an app. It's a web-based app, so sometimes I refer to it as a web tool, but we refer to it internally as an app most of the time.
Let's go there, and let's start by asking, did you define what success looks like before you began, as I think most marketers when they take on a new objective or a new project? And if you did, what the success look like for you?
So when you're starting something brand new, we thought that it would be useful to set a target that was reasonable. And so, yeah, we set out targets from the beginning, which was to have 5,000 unique users. I think the time frame that we set for that was 6 months. So it was a reasonable time frame. Communicating something brand new, getting people to use it was, we knew, going to be a lift, because it's basically a behavior change campaign in trying to get people to adopt a new tool in order to execute on their day-to-day work or their day-to-day lives. So we had those goals in mind. And as we developed the tools, we identified ways that we could create incentives for people to use those tools. So, for example, I spoke about the discounts, and that, of course, was one of our most heavily focused features for our marketing campaign, because we knew if we could get them to come for the discounts, they'd stay for the problem solving, because they'd already be logged in. Logging in of itself can sometimes be a barrier. So we created an easy way for people to bookmark the app on their phones. The fact that not everybody has technology can of course be a barrier, because we're not providing the tech tool itself. So making sure that it could work across all platforms, so that anybody who does have any tech tool could utilize it as easily as possible. So those were some of the things that we were thinking about to make sure that we could have the adoption that we were looking for. And then, of course, looking for ways for us to integrate it into the everyday experience. For example, I mentioned our badging. You have to have a badge in order to sign into the app. That is your security to get past the screen. Everybody who is a badged employee has access to the app. Our badging office is now part of our marketing, and they play a video, they give out lanyards, they show people the tools. So it's integrating it in like the very places where people will be thinking about it.
It's just fascinating. It's almost like you brought the product mindset into this, like even though call it a captured audience to some extent. They're there because they have to be there, unlike a customer. However, you're looking at it from page views, from experience, from technology perspective, how to make it easy, how to capture their attention across their employee experience, including the badges. Can you tell me a little bit about the skill set or the mindsets of the folks that were creating this
Sure.
campaign?
So we worked with an outside agency. They were called Design It, and they are called Design It, and they're a wonderful company. We worked with them on the MVP and then on the V2. They brought the hard skills, like the technical skills, but across the airport experience, we had our guest experience director, we had myself. We have the person who's in charge of the innovation at the airport, chief innovation. So it was, and then of course, various people responsible for IT. We had other people from my team who were responsible for the public relations side. So we brought together a wide span of the guest services, guest experience, innovation, IT, marketing, public relations. And then as the product developed, we were able to get buy-in across the executives, because that's another aspect of the app, is that it's a tool for our chief executive officer to be able to communicate with the employees who are on the campus. So again, not just the employees of LAWA. There are many ways that our CEO can communicate with the employees of LAWA or LAX, but we needed to create a new way for everybody to be unified across the whole campus.
Amazing, and I could totally see the value of it. Let's talk about the campaign itself. What were the different channels that you leveraged? And I say the word channel. You have so many options here, and yet you have constraints. So I'm curious how you approached it.
Well, no surprise. I have some notes, so if you see me looking at them, that's what's going on. So, for starters, we created road shows. So we took the product on the road with people from Design It and our team meeting with different employee groups. Some of those employee groups were within LAWA, and some of them were external to LAWA. For example, meeting and speaking with the concessionaires, so people who run the food businesses and the stores, the organizations and businesses that run those shops, and getting their buy-in and so that they can understand what the product value could be for them and their employees. We did an employee survey after the MVP to gather feedback so that we could use that for V2. But it was also useful to create more awareness of the tool. We worked with one of our partners, with our employee parking, and created an email targeted at the employee parking lot users to promote usage specifically of the live shuttle tracker for the shuttle that they take to and from the airport, which has actually been such a successful aspect of the tool, which is called Altitude, that we have some non-badged employee groups who are now asking for a way for them to be able to access it, which is kind of this, like, to me, that was a real, like, aha success moment, because they were getting it from buzz. They were getting it from word of mouth. We hadn't reached out to them at all, but other employees were telling them about it. So now we're looking for a way to be able to include that group of employees in our future tool, future versions. We have an employee portal for LAWA employees. We created a clickable link within that employee portal, and that creates an easy way for people to get to Altitude. As I mentioned, we have the badging office who works with us as a very significant partner in making sure that people are aware of Altitude. We have partner emails. So I mentioned we have different employee groups at the airport, including our airline partners, including our public safety partners, and we created emails that they could plug and play to their specific groups. And then we worked with our graphics team to create targeted in-terminal promotions, beautiful posters that are at employee break rooms or in employee stairwell areas, just so that you're seeing the message all the time.
Pretty extraordinary. Dare I ask how it's going in terms of metrics? I think you said Altitude would be destined, or the goal was to get to 5,000 unique views per day?
Yeah, unique users. Yeah, so we've actually surpassed our original goal, which is exciting. So we're at over 8,000 unique users. And what's really interesting is the number of return users that we have. Is that we're looking at least 1.9 sessions per user. So we know people are returning to use it, and we know what they're using when they're visiting. They're using the discounts, they're using the shuttle tracker, and they're using the problem reporting. I used the problem reporting from Altitude the other day, and frankly, before that, I would not have known how to do it as easily. So I was walking in Tom Bradley International Terminal, saw that there was a spill, pulled up the app, entered it, easy as pie, and then I was able to get on my way knowing that it was going to get cleaned up. That problem reporting goes into our regular system for maintenance, and they'll see it as a ticket coming up that they can respond to. So now everybody who works across the airport is unified in their ability to solve problems whenever they see them.
It's extraordinary, and even the language you're using from time on site, it's almost adopting completely marketing and going all in to really focus on the user experience. Because I think in majority of cases, when technologies are built for internal, nothing against SAP or Oracle. I'm not the amazing technologies, but when it comes to user experience, it's often not a priority. The priority is to make sure it's functional. How the user gets to the function is kind of left as a let's just, let's not spend too much time on it. It's got to do a job. You are putting in the effort to go beyond the function. You're appealing to an experience. You're consumerizing the employee experience.
Well, I think that from the beginning, our mindset was there was really no point in creating this if it was just going to sit on the shelf and be something nice for us to know we've done, that we could tick this one off the list for what was then 2023, and go on our way. The whole point of it was to really create this community, and our employees are our most important resource. And from the city perspective, we have lots of vacancies. So we know that every employee that we're able to communicate with and create community with is going to be more likely to stay, not just stay, but also to speak positively about our airport and our department. And I think one thing that we were all unified on when we started this project was that we really see our employees as our number one invested ambassadors when it comes to talking about the airport, not just from the guest experience perspective. And of course, we hope everybody has a smooth travel experience, but also from the work perspective, because as a city department, we have that responsibility to Angelinos to lift up our workforce. So that's actually one of the most exciting changes that's going to be coming to Altitude soon, is that we're creating a job board. So
Mm.
it's very easy to find city jobs right now, in terms of online searches. Like you can go to the city website and you can search for jobs at Los Angeles World Airports, and they come up, and it's very obvious, and that's all fine and good. But if you're a LAWA employee and you want to stay at LAX, but you maybe want to have a foray to work with one of our partners, or vice versa. If you're one of our partners and you work currently with one of our concessionaires and you want to see about jobs that are available with our public safety partners, that's a little harder. So what I'm really excited about is that in a future iteration very soon, we'll have a job board that allows anybody to search for, that allows anybody who has access to Altitude to search for a job anywhere across the campus.
Talk about a treasure trove of more data, right? Applications, filling positions, which leads to retention. And that's where I kind of want to go there for a second. I'm putting myself in the mind of some of the folks in the audience. Some of them I've talked to, others I can imagine are going through this saying, listen, we want to adopt marketing here internally, but our leaders don't want to. They don't see it. Where's my return on the investment? Because this is not a light lift. What you've
Right.
described is not a small project. But you began to talk about lagging indicators. So I want to go there for a second and then jump to leading indicators.
Yeah.
You said retention, right? You see the open positions. How do we retain them? Talk a little bit about that. Maybe is there a performance element to this as well? It's not all about the app doesn't solve things, but it certainly improves the experience. So maybe you could talk first about lagging, and then we'll make our way to leading.
Well, sure. I mean, when we look at what people are using on the app, it gives us a guide to the future areas of need and potential development. So, like, we have a feature backlog that is going to be implemented over the next few versions to make sure that we are constantly iterating and giving people a new opportunity to engage with Altitude. Uh, I think that, maybe it's the word marketing that sometimes creates a barrier because people don't understand that it's like there are so many different aspects to it, and ROI can be measured in so many different ways. And for us with Altitude, we're measuring it with obviously the number of unique visitors, the number of visits that they have, how long they're spending on in the app, and how many clicks they're going through, and how many times they're able to get the information that they need. But we're also using other tools to check on our engagement simply by, like, are people wearing some of the paraphernalia that we're giving them, the lanyards, are they using the cups, the tools that we're sharing, the power cords, are we distributing enough of those, like is there engagement even just from a product perspective, so that we can so that we know whether or not there's the uptake universally. So it's not just the data from the stats from the app, but also, are we creating a new culture of community across the entire employee base, which is really, I think, the end goal for us. Is like, we want to problem solve, which is, the app does that. We want to give people things that they need. The app does that. But are we creating a culture where people feel like there's a community of belonging and a culture of belonging and a people first attitude when it comes to our campus? And that's what I hope we're able to do. So the marketing ROIs on that are multitudinous, and we shouldn't necessarily just look at whether or not people are clicking through on the email. But are we seeing that people are reporting problems more often? Are they taking pride in their workplace? Are they taking that extra moment to say, like, I work here, this is my space, I want to keep it as beautiful as possible for not just myself and the guests, but for the other people that I work with.
I love that. And I want to double click there even further, but give it context, because the way I think about it, marketing at some point in time was like, listen, we really need to explain how impressions are valuable. Coca-Cola spends a gajillion, accurate number, and they don't say, like, this impression sold us this Coke bottle. No. Much more sophisticated. When the time comes, you'll think about it's all in context of creating the brand. Mm-hmm. And I think we're in early days of marketing to employees. This is my view from having these conversations. What do you think would be? Let's speculate together. The evolution of taking the leading indicators of the app usage, of other employee experience, and then do you think over time we'll be able to start to predict performance, predict retention? How far does this go? I know it's a big question. It's a really huge question, but I'm just curious, what for you comes to mind? Because I think that's our bridge into this future, and I'll bring in the name of the podcast, the Future of People initiatives.
Well, in terms of this challenge specifically that's before us with our employee community living in our city village of 40,000 people, I would say that a measure of success for me will be when we have more positions across all of our partners and within ourselves, more filled positions with more cross lines. So how did people find out about those roles? Like, are we creating the tools for people to be able to cross-pollinate for the future success of this city village community? And that's not to say that I want all the positions to be sort of internally focused and we should only hire people that we know. Quite the opposite. What I mean is that I hope that everybody is so enthusiastic about where they work because they feel that sense of pride of place and community, that they are willing to share that with other people. Look, there are a number of things that are finite resources. Time is one of them, but we also know that it's hard to find good employees these days, and employee loyalty doesn't come easily. Jobs are out there, And certainly, working at an airport, it's a busy environment in a place where you do need to go in person. This is not it's not a remote environment. So although I am today, so we can be in a quiet space, but typically it's an in-person environment. And we need to make sure that we're building that community so that people really feel a part of it, and that we can get to know each other as our extended family.
I really like how you presented the lagging indicator, this mobility, this airport internal mobility. And that's a very clear KPI, which ones were sourced through this experience that you've created. Very cool. Thank you. I want to talk about maybe what you've learned that can help others that are on this journey. Because again, most who listen to the podcast, they all agree marketing in HR is needed. How would you, what have you learned, maybe, or even if you have stories to illustrate it, where there were challenging conversations, you saying we should do this, or here's how we should do this, and how you've overcome them, or maybe any kind of advice, because I know there's a lot of folks that are on this journey to say we should bring this, and they're experiencing resistance because, hey, it's our employees, they have to be here. Get them to do the job they need to do, that they were hired to do.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I would say is that the easiest way to get past people's reluctance to engage with this kind of a campaign is to do the research and get the feedback so that you have some data behind your decision and behind your the change that you're advocating. And we did that. We did the hard yards. So we did the stakeholder interviews. We did interviews and surveys. We did meetings with employee groups. And by we, I'm not talking about me necessarily, but the larger we. And we did an airport worker survey. We did concept testing. We invested heavily in the way this felt and looked. We knew that was important because we work in an environment where there's a cacophony of brands. So we needed to be able to be distinct in what we were offering people, even visually. So we invested in that. So we did the hard yards, and then we concept tested what that brand identity looked like. It needed to be distinct from LAX and distinct from all of our airline partners, and unifying across the campus. We went with an image that leverages the shape of the theme building, which is an iconic LAX landmark. So we made sure that we invested in the observational research, the stakeholder research, the survey research, the concept testing, and then every decision that we made, we were able to make with confidence, and we were able to advocate with confidence when people were the naysayers. And there are naysayers everywhere because it's really hard to do something new, and that was I think one of the challenges, of course, is getting past that. But one of the beauties of this project was the unexpected partnerships that we found from some of our partners. For example, one of our concession partners who was really willing to go very far to bat in putting heavy discounts on their for their operations within through the app. So we used that as a real draw around Christmas time last year, and putting 25, 50% discounts for food at our concessions, for example, was a real bonus, and people saw it as a gift. So we were able to sort of sell it to our employees as, like, sign into the app and you get this amazing discount, and you can only get it if you sign into the app. So we found amazing partners, and then we're able to give them something back too, because they saw huge amounts of business, and then of course we hope that they will get continued business, and they will continue to give discounts through the app, maybe not to the same significant degree, but still very generous.
Clever. It was a clever idea. It's valuable for them to use it. This partner that you found incredible. And just I just want to. I'm pondering on the words you said. You really cared about how it felt and looked. How often in the employee experience are technologies and experience itself being built with that in mind? I think.
Yeah, probably not often enough. I mean, we think a lot about the words and, will this match will it fit within the brand that we already have? But creating a brand in of itself, and it was necessary in this instance because it needed to be able to speak to multiple audiences under its own brand umbrella rather than as LAX or as LAWA, because we really needed the engagement of I mean, most of the employees are not our employees. They work through at our partners. So it only made sense if it was going to be really resonant and beautiful and branded in a way that it would be engaging and eye catching. So I'm really proud of the expression, the brand expression that we were able to create. I also want to mention that there was another element that we were able to add in V2 that gave people another reason to engage with the app. So we've long had a program with our neighborhood businesses for discounts for employees. And it's called the We Fly as One program. And so there are businesses around the airport neighborhood environment that provide things like, 10% off new tires or a free soda with your sandwich if you show your badge. And so that program was robust, but had faded a bit during COVID because obviously people weren't out and about as much. So we were able to give it to revive it through Altitude. And it now, when you go to the discounts page, you're either looking at in-terminal discounts or outside discount through the We Fly as One program. And so, it's really given a new life to something that was old. And I think that was another learning for us, was like, we have all of these tools, like some of the tools we don't need to create. The job board, for example, we're not creating that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of coding that goes into making sure that it all works properly, not just for us, but for our partners as well. But we're not creating the listings. We're just giving them a life. We're just finding a new way to express them. So that was another real learning for us, was that not everything needs to be brand new. It just needs to be delivered in a way that people can access it.
You're learning and you're evolving, and you'll continue to do so as any product would when looking at the experience. Quite an extraordinary story there. I just super appreciate you jumping on, sharing it with the audience. I'm looking at the time. I think I could do this for the next 5 hours with you. Keep asking and
Well, I'm
asking.
having so much fun too. Thank you.
Let's stay in touch as you continue to develop the product Altitude, and hopefully we'll have you back on to give an update to the audience of where it's gone.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave. Over and out. Bye.